Hello everybody, Jack Saunders here from Box to Belly. We're doing a video today for a very good friend of mine, Freddie from Morehouse Farm. Now if you're seeing this video, of course you'll have bought perhaps some steak from Morehouse Farm, which by the way is from an Aberdeen Angus suckler herd. These animals have grass available to them all year, so that's good for the meat quality, the meat texture, the tenderness and the flavour as well. Eating grass-fed beef. I think you are what you eat, and certainly the beef cattle are what they eat as well. I'm rambling on too much. I've got a glass of Barolo here, which is incidentally a very good wine. It's not often we have very good wine in this house. We just have lots of it. But yeah, cheers everybody. So I'm showing you today a bit of an alternative of what you can do with a really good steak. Now that, of course, for the more observant amongst you, is a sirloin. Now, there's a bit of a legend, whether it's truth or legend, I'm not sure, but the name sirloin comes from when I believe it was James I was eating a loin of beef, as they were known back then. He was eating a loin of beef, and he was that impressed with the taste and the texture and the tenderness and everything like that. He stood up, everybody stood up as well, because when the king stands up, everybody else stands up. He stood up and he got his knife and he said, "Arise, sirloin," and he knighted the loin of steak, the loin of beef. And that is why we know it, allegedly, as sirloin. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to cook this in a pan. Some people like it in the grill. Mrs. Beaton, one of my role models really, for cooking that is. I don't really look up to her for anything else. But she, Mrs. Beaton, if you don't know, was a Victorian lady who wrote a big, not just a cookbook, but a housekeeping book. I'll find it out at some point and we'll do some recipes related to that. But basically, she says it's better to grill the steak. We're going to pan fry it today because I'm going to show you something you can do just a little bit differently. And we're going to have, it's probably a little bit self-explanatory, but we're going to have a steak and Stilton baguette. Just something if you fancy a midday snack, if you don't want steak and chips, if you haven't got time to put a load of chips in the oven, because those oven bought things that you just shove in the oven are dreadful. If you're going to have chips, you've got to be deep fat frying them in beef lard, in my humble opinion. Beef lard that you can get from Morehouse Farm as well. I don't know if he's selling that yet, but he very much ought to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I treat a steak. People have got all different ways, and that's absolutely fine of how they cook steaks. I'm going to show you what I do. So, I'm going to rub some olive oil on the meat, a bit on the fat so the salt sticks to it. And then that's so we don't burn any of the flesh. Some people put salt and pepper on now. One of my favourite chefs, Keith Floyd, he says that putting salt on the raw meat draws the moisture out, and so he likes to seal it on all sides and then put the salt on. So what we're going to do, just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves at this stage, we're not going to put the salt on the meat, but we are going to put just a little bit on the fat so it crozzles up nicely. This is blackthorn salt. I'm not making any false claims or anything like that, so don't sue me. But that is apparently the saltiest salt that you can get. That's blackthorn salt, and it's made from 100% Scottish seawater. Over to the pan, please, cameraman. So we're starting off with a relatively hot pan, and we've not need for any olive oil in there at the minute because we've put olive oil on the steak. But what we do is, a steak that sort of thickness, a thumb width, just under an inch, we're going to put in for about two and a half minutes per side. Don't get bogged down in the timing of it. I'm going to show you another tip on how to check if it's medium rare. I'm not going to show you any other tips that don't relate to medium rare, because if you don't eat medium rare steak, or if you go past medium rare, you shouldn't be eating steak at all, really. In with the steak, and you should hear that noise. Now what we're going to do is let it seal on all sides. Then I will add the salt. Be generous with the salt. And on that side as well. Now I'm not going to add the pepper now. I'm going to add that on the finished product, because if you add pepper, big cracked black pepper in the pan like that, sometimes it scorches the pepper and you get a little bit of a burnt taste in your mouth. Some people put it on. Again, that's just my humble opinion. I've just picked a little sprig of rosemary from our herb garden. That goes in there. We'll leave it 2.5 minutes that side, and we'll turn it around, add some butter to finish it off, and that should pack, the thing full of flavour. So I was only joking about the medium rare stuff earlier, and if you like the steak done just a little bit more, here's a little tip for you. So I've always been told, and I've worked in a butcher's shop, and this is what I used to tell the customers. So if you hold your index finger and your thumb there and feel that part of your hand, that softness is what a rare or a medium rare steak should feel like. If you then put your middle finger to your thumb, feel that goes a little bit firmer. And that's what a medium or a medium well should feel like. And of course, with your fourth finger there, that goes even firmer still. That is what, when you're pressing the steak in the pan, that is what a well done, aka a ruined steak, feels like. So over the steak goes. Remember, if you're not flipping it all the time, you get those nice sear marks on there, and it doesn't stick to the pan because, they've dried out those sear marks and it's not sticking to the pan. So now we're going to put a bit of butter on just to finish it off with. Don't burn the butter, so just put it on at the last minute. Now, toss the rosemary about a bit. And that's another 2.5 minutes. It may seem a little bit idiot-proof, but now we're going to butter the baguette. You don't want any of that rapeseed stuff. You want 100% butter, and it should look nice, thick and yellow. You remember, you are what you eat. And I'm a sirloin steak. Or a pork chop, as it's sometimes been unkindly said. So right, ladies and gentlemen, if you, instead of going like that with your hand, people might think you've gone quite mad. So another tip for your medium rare, in please cameraman, I put a little bit of butter there, but can you see that red, well, it's not blood, it's exudative. Up to me, please, cameraman. It's not blood, it's exudative. And once that starts seeping out of the top, that's a giveaway sign that it's medium rare. So what we're going to do now is get some, whatever these are called, tongs, and we're just going to sit it on the fat for a little bit. But the steak is cooked to perfection, hopefully. We'll put that there, we'll put it in foil, and we'll let it rest for 10 minutes. So after it's rested for 10 minutes, what we do now is cut it basically up to go in the sandwich. Now, why you should rest steak is so it doesn't dry out and all the juices stay in and it remains tasty and tender, or something like that. What we're going to do before we chop it up, we're going to put a bit of black pepper on there, because we didn't put it in the pan because we thought it might scorch it. That is now on, so you can stop worrying about it. And we're basically going to cut it. Now, some people don't like fat. I absolutely love it. So while I've been chatting away and everything like that, it might have gone just a little bit over. But that doesn't matter. We've got it, how we like it there. Get the fat on there as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, very simply, I like Stilton, so I'm going to put plenty on. I think that's what they're going to write on my headstone. Death by Stilton. But that, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a snack, lunchtime snack, cold winter night, lovely summer evening as well. Have it whenever you want, really. But with a glass of wine, that, ladies and giblets, is a steak and Stilton baguette. Enjoy your beef from Morehouse Farm. Why not try this?